And away we go. Another edition, picks and roll playoffs. Playoffs? Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals. Now we know that the 2023-24 NBA champion will either be the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Dallas Mavericks, the Indiana Pacers, or the Boston Celtics. Hello, everybody. Sean Bray, Sean Barnard with you. 3 out of those 4 got you scratching the head somewhat, right? Yeah, one of those teams going to be the champion for this year, and we got a lot to discuss. Sean Barnard, Sean Brace with you here, picks and roll, a lot to get into, and at the top, Sean, it's great waking up, and next thing you know, I come over the top of a social media tweet, and we're going back and forth with Entourage's favorite son, Turtle.
Yeah, good weekend. 2 game sevens, can't complain, and a little fun interaction there. So it has been nice to see some of the cockroaches of New York come back down to earth and realize that, you don't win championships in the first round of the playoffs like a lot of them seem to think to be the case. So all in good fun. The Knicks and 8 chance outside the Garden is straight up embarrassing, and that is what triggered that interaction that I just pointed out what a loser move that is, which it absolutely is. So yeah, I'm enjoying. It was nice to hate watch the Knicks lose yesterday. It absolutely was.
Yeah, look, Turtle puts a tweet out to us saying, Sixers fans in general are cocky every year. It's our year. While I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that every year we look, I'm not going to sit here and say there are a lot of Sixers fans that believe that, right? But the ones with brains, the ones that we interact with on a daily basis, the ones that represent the gambler, talked about this team where, look, yeah, the path is there. Nobody had the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? And who knows? Maybe the Pacers are that team that, get up for these big moments, right? They played well in the in-season tournament. They look good against some of those big games against Milwaukee. I think we're learning a lot about Indiana. I'm not putting the dirt on them just yet, especially with Porzingis out 1 and 2. But what I would say is that from the Sixers fans' perspective, like we look at it from the standpoint of Joel Embiid's hurt again. This is this year. We'll just focus on this year. He came back, he had a week to ramp up. He's definitely the best player, although Brunson took that baton and ran with it. But Joel Embiid was still the best player. Of course, when he's dealing with Bell's palsy and all that other nonsense, I don't remember really thinking that this team was ever going to win an NBA championship, nor do I ever remember saying anything along the lines of like, this team is destined or this is the greatest playoff run of all time. Like, and I get it. Brunson played well, but it was literally on our timelines from Knicks fans in bunches that Jalen Brunson and what he was doing was up there with players that won championships, that went on a run to win an NBA Finals, that went on a run to get to an Eastern Conference or to get to an NBA Finals. And here we were, 1 series in against the Sixers team that was a 7 seed. And then in 1 series against the Pacers, which they played well at home and they got some really big calls. Like it just really blew my mind that Knicks fans took it there. It's like they skipped over the part of like, hey, let's have a normal interaction here. No, this is the greatest thing ever, as Knicks fans do. So I laugh when Turtle says, we're the cocky ones. Oh, really? I don't remember ever saying that the Wells Fargo Center is the most famous Wells Fargo Center or arena
Mecca
basketball, Channing, F everybody, showing up to opposing places, which I think is funny, but they definitely crossed that line. Well documented on this show. Long-winded, heavy bloviated here on this Monday morning, but you know where I'm at, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I was told with a straight face by multiple different people that this run by Jalen Brunson was more impressive than the Allen Iverson run in 01 in which he went to the NBA Finals. And Jalen Brunson won a grand total of 1 playoff series during this entire playoff run. Now, the Knicks fan conversation here. Here's the difference between the Knicks fans and Sixers fans. You will not see a Sixers fan puff their chest and act like they won a championship after every single win the way you see Knicks fans do. The Philadelphia brain, the Sixers painful brain, is you're waiting for what's going wrong next. The Knicks are an absolute loser franchise, that they are celebrating this like it's crazy. And by the way, for all this, the Sixers tanking, the process, all this, the Sixers have been to an NBA Finals more recently than the New York Knicks. And also, by the way, when you are the New York Knicks, when you play at Madison Square Garden, when you are the bright lights of New York, have all these big dog owners, want to throw all this money, you got to drop this underdog fake act that you are not the underdog as the New York Knicks. The expectation should be that you're a competitive team year in and year out, and you've been irrelevant for decades at this point. So it is embarrassing that the way that they've run with this. I am glad to see them come back to earth and realize that they're not quite what they are. And to be completely honest, the best thing possible for the rest of the NBA is for the Knicks to believe this run is real, that this team played above their means in this run. This team is not going to build off this. They just played to their ceiling. And by Knicks fans' definitions, that seems to be their version of a championship.
All right, well, let's focus on that for a second because I want to push back a little bit. Why do you are you so adamant about that? Because I would just say this, and without knowing full contract details, who's coming back, all that, I think I do. Brunson, damn good piece. I believe he could be as good as advertised as he was this year. Again, the small frame is definitely concerning, but we'll put that to the side. Let's just say, for the sake of this conversation, he stays healthy from the start of the season, minor dings here and there, but he's consistent throughout the course of the playoffs. Josh Hart has made a name for himself. I get it. Not the guy you want pulling up, who shot the living daylights out against us. I think he returned back down to earth. I think 24% from downtown in a series against the Pacers. It's funny how that works out. But again, a good piece. Hartenstein, a good piece. McBride, a good piece. They have some good pieces in part, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this team can compete for an NBA championship next year, currently as constructed. But I do believe that players would like to go play for the Knicks. Definitely now with the fanfare and everything that they've built up in the last, prisoner of the moment, free agency, whatever it may be this offseason. So, again, I don't know who's out there without diving too deep into it, but I seem to think that, if they get a big free agent, this team will compete for another Eastern Conference final next year. Why do you say no to that?
So the larger conversation here is if Jalen Brunson can be the best player on a championship team. I personally don't feel he can at the NBA level. I like Jalen Brunson. He's
next year?
Well, here's where the Knicks are really looking down the barrel of is you're about to pay OG Anunoby as if he's the superstar guy. That was essentially the deal that they took when you invested in it to make that trade, similar to what the Sixers did when they made the Tobias Harris mistake, where you dump these assets in to get a player, you can't let him walk. That's basically what the Knicks are doing with OG. OG is a very good player, really solid, and fits a necessary role for that team. But can he be like this co-star to Jalen Brunson the way that his contract's going to demand that he acts like or plays like? So I don't think that's the case. That also clogs up a ton of money when you do talk about these other free agents that you want to bring in. There's also still a Julius Randle conversation that needs to be had about what is his role moving forward. What is the long-term view of that? So that there's teams kind of watching that play out, that it does seem like he's going to be this guy squeezed out. And to be honest, I don't think that's entirely fair to Randle. That Randle's been pretty good there, and he's a frustrating player. He's not a guy that I think you can win with either, so I get wanting to cut ties there. But I think ultimately they've got a bunch of guys that are good, but not quite to the caliber that they need them to be based on the expectations now.
Hartenstein, I heard it said twice yesterday too on the broadcast, just so you know. Anyways, he is actually a free agent, if I'm reading this correctly.
He'll get paid too.
I thought he played well. Again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you just Paul Reed, or would you rather Isaiah Hartenstein? That's where my mind goes. Let's see here. Precious Achua, see ya. Alex Burke, see ya. Jeffrey, see ya. DiVincenzo, what did he? Oh, DiVincenzo got a contract.
Yeah, he makes a decent chunk of money and has played well. He's earned that contract. But this brings me back to like the same conversation of like Dante DiVincenzo, good player. Is that a guy that you think can be like a third option on a championship team? That's where I don't necessarily feel that way. Like, I get it. He's obviously these guys play together incredibly well, which makes this conversation tougher, to be perfectly honest. Like, when you're thinking about a perfect team construction, you're always thinking about maximizing each other, and these guys clearly do. They play off each other well. They have the system, all these types of things. But I'm still a believer in talent winning out for the most part in the NBA. I'm can't quite talk myself into DiVincenzo taking more strides forward in his game than he has. I think all these guys have kind of played above their means to an extent, and I don't know if that's sustainable. That like the outwork teams, out hustle teams, that gimmick doesn't work all the way to the NBA Finals. You have to have more talent. You have to be a better basketball team, and the Knicks weren't yesterday.
Yeah, no, you look at who the look, Halliburton isn't. I think the Pacers are kind of like the outside looking in from this conversation, but just look at what the Timberwolves have with Ant and then Cat, Rudy Gobert. You just go down the list. Conley was the highest paid player in the game a couple years ago. Really good squad. Dallas, Luka, and Kyrie still made some trades. Were aggressive this trade deadline. Like you need stars. You need guys that can uplift each other, and that's apparent. And you look at what the Nuggets had, and even with everything that they were rolling, man, we'll get into them in a second because what a choke job that was. But back to the Knicks again, man, you look at this contract. Josh Hart got paid. I didn't know that Josh Hart got a contract. He's paid. He's making more money than Brunson is.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's insane.
Well, in total. So Josh Hart's making 12 this year, 18 million, 19 million follows his 20 million, then 22 million. It's blue, so it must be like a team option, whatever. Yeah, team option in 27, 28. Jalen Brunson, do you know his contract deal? Because he got paid 26, he's getting paid 24, and then 24 and 25. He's guaranteed $51 million. Josh Hart's guaranteed $71 million.
Wow. Yeah, and Brunson's a descending contract, so he's making less, which is very cap friendly. Brunson's contract has aged like one of the better deals, maybe the best deal in the NBA in terms of value for what you're paying. This season, he made 26 million down to 24.9 mil next year, and then as a player option for 24.9 the following. I would guess he opts out and gets a real max contract because he's absolutely earned it at that point. So yeah, they've done well with managing with Brunson, but all these guys, like, there is an expiration on it. At some point, you have to pay the pretty penny that he's worth when he's playing like the all NBA caliber guard that he has been this year.
Well, we got ourselves an Eastern Conference final that features the Indiana Pacers and the Boston Celtics. I won't lie. I did want to see the Knicks in there. I didn't think that they would have a shot to beat the Boston Celtics, so I thought that would have been a good series, a little bit more. But then I wake up and I look around and, now I'm a little enticed by the Pacers. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's completely over, that they have no chance, especially with the way it's played out already. Like these playoffs has been crazy. I got game 6 and 7 wrong in a lot of the series. I think 2 out of the 3 series, if I'm not mistaken. Well, no, we only had 2 game 7s. That's right. We were robbed of the one. For OKC and Dallas. Damn, swallow the whistle. Don't call a foul there. Anyways, so like I'm kind of all over the place on this one. Won't sit here and tell people like people hit me up on Friday. I'm like, dude, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask right now. I feel like I'm picking wrong every time I get an opportunity to do so here. But I think the Pacers, with the way that they have played, of course they've shot the lights out, but who knows? Maybe they're feeling themselves. Maybe this is a team that is saying, like, all right, no one believes in us. Let's go. No one believed in them against the Knicks. Very few had them against the Bucks. A couple more people actually did have them against the Bucks, in my opinion, than the Knicks. You had them against the Knicks. As a matter of fact, in 7 too. Nice call by you. Geez, Sean. Yeah. I don't know. I from the gambling standpoint, yes, I'm going to take 7-1 to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Why not? That's how I'm going to get involved. I got a little action. I'm going to be enjoying these games a little bit more. And if the Pacers do win, which I want no matter what, nobody wants to see Boston go, then I win 7-1. I figured it's a good shot on DraftKings Sportsbook. Brace promo code. Your thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, it's interesting that like Boston, pretty much one of the least resistant paths to the finals that we've seen this year. That all these teams, they're head and shoulders above. And I do think that says more about how good Boston is rather than these teams. They're kind of like, we don't truly know what this team is, which gives me a little bit of concern. I guess with the Pacers team, I'll say that they're just straight up better than a lot of people have given them credit. They're deep, they play hard, and specifically Tyrese Halliburton is the head of the snake there. You can see the night and day difference when he's locked in, playing aggressive, playing with intensity. That team is the real deal. That they're competitive, they're contenders, they're legit, whatever name that you want to throw. I do think they win at least 1 to 2 games in this series. That I think the pace that they play with. Like, I know everyone's going crazy about the shooting percentages and the shooting splits yesterday. For me, that was real. That wasn't outlier shooting performances. When you look at the shots they generated, the way their offense was clicking, the way that they were just beating the Knicks down the floor on a possession by possession basis, like, you're going to shoot pretty highly when you're getting wide open layups on a regular basis. Your numbers are going to look good. I do think that's going to carry itself over and at least show face in a couple of these Boston games. I'm still skeptical. I don't think they have a true chance to win the series, but I probably would go Celtics in 6, which I do feel is pretty respectful of the Pacers.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just to let everybody know, as we are live right now, Knicks fans are commenting on our socials here and saying our YouTube channel is crap, Sean, but they used another word. Just be sure to subscribe. That's all we ask. Fox Sports The Gambler, Fox Sports The Gambler. And if you want to give us a shot or, take a shot or whatever you want, please do it there. Once again, have Fox PHL Gambler on all things socials, Fox Sports The Gambler on YouTube. All right, look, from the standpoint of the series, Sean, you said 6.
Yeah, I'll go Celtics in 6.
Celtics in 6. So let's fire up DraftKings Sportsbook. Look at some of the futures that they have offering right now as far as the market is concerned. And let's see here. The series. Let's go series. Why is this not popping up now?
So series spread, I'm seeing Celtics -1.5 at -350, which is pretty insane to me to see it that high there. So yeah, not a lot of belief in the Pacers at all. The total games, it's sitting at 5.5. The over is +145 there. So I don't hate that as a way to bet it here. That taking a little chance, you just need the Pacers to win 2 games. So taking the over 5.5, that is the in 6 games prediction there. That's not awful, but kind of surprised to see that significant of a number there.
Boston in 6 is 4-1. That's a pretty decent payout there for people that want to get involved. Just take it through it, because the first game is tomorrow night for Eastern Conference Finals. Can the Pacers run with the Celtics in Indiana, beating them 2 times? Can they go on the road and win 1 time in Boston? Are we banking on the Celtics playing with their food as they have done year after year? And hell, we saw that 2 times already throughout the course of this playoff run for them, even though the competition that they went up against was nowhere near what I think the Pacers are. Bottom line is the Celtics did lose 2 games, albeit I think they lost 5 home games all season. They already lost 2 in the playoffs. So can the Pacers sneak 1 in Boston and get 1 at home?
I think so. I think they absolutely can. And specifically this series against the Knicks, what they showed me, there's a level of defensive ability that I did not think they could possess. That they've been one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA this season. They were able to flip the switch a little bit in that series. And specifically, I'll show some love to Aaron Naismith. This is a guy that, like, when he came out of college, he was just a shooter type of guy, went to Vanderbilt, like an electric shooter, super high level shot, close to 50% from 3. He's turned himself into like this defensive just bulldog, the way he's just hounding people, getting up in faces. There's like the TJ McConnells of these teams will find a way to make an impact. That TJ's been great. I think Naismith's going to be great. There's a lot of these guys that I do expect to show up. I think they can squeak too. I think I'm officially talked myself and I'm in on Celtics in 6, and the Pacers do win 2 games here.
All right. Can the Pacers shoot 67.1%? That's the question that I want you to. That is hysterical. If we could, just one more on the game 7. The Pacers shot 67.1%, which is the best shooting performance in any game, not just game 7 in NBA playoff history. Once again, the Pacers shot 67.1% yesterday, which was the greatest shooting performance in NBA playoff history. It's pretty damn funny. I think a little bit has to go to the fact that the Knicks weren't up for the challenge.
Yeah.
They were making terrible mistakes, whatever you want to say. No excuses. You're at home. You're a 6-point favorite at the Garden. You got to win that game. And it didn't look like they had any interest in that. Of course, Brunson breaks his hand third quarter, which was a huge loss for him to be out. But the Pacers weren't losing that game because they just did not miss. Now, I'm not going to ask you, is that something that they can duplicate? But is the offense flowing? Is something hitting for them right now in your mind that maybe 67.1 was a fluke? Sure. But the fact that they're hitting all their shots maybe isn't. Where are you at on that?
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. That I think it is more legitimate than people are giving credit. Like, no, they're not going to shoot that every single game by any means, but it's process over results for me here. That them beating the Knicks down the floor on a regular basis, just generating free open layups. When you're getting multiple just wide open layups in a regular flow of your offense, like your shooting percentage is going to look pretty good when that is the case. So I do think they did a good job generating those looks. Most specifically, like there were several instances yesterday where the Knicks made a basket and the Pacers were already scoring down the other end by the time before anybody gets set. That's the type of stuff that keeps this like percentage floating up and stuff that I do think is to an extent sustainable. Like, no, I don't think they're going to be breaking the record again, but I do think that like this should be more about the shots they generated rather than the specific number is looked at as an outlier here.
All right, Sean, we'll have plenty of time to talk all things Eastern Conference Finals. Of course, starts tomorrow. DraftKings Sportsbook, 10-point spread for the game. Boston favorite at home. We'll see. You know, like I said, we'll get a little bit more in detail as far as matchups are concerned, fire on some props, talk about what took place this season. But all in all, right here, right now, I don't see any issues with taking the Pacers on this one, especially with the way it's played out so far. And what I mean by that is as we get over to the West, let's just remember this. First of all, from the East, real quick, Pacers were down 0-2. They won 4 out of the final 5 games to advance. Blows my mind. On the West side of things, yeah, I know. Minnesota goes on the road and takes the first 2 in Denver. Ho-hum. Then next thing you know, they lose the next 2 at home. And then Denver takes game 5. They're up 3-2. Denver is up 3-2. And they lose the series. Oh, by the way, they were up by double digits yesterday, 18, 20 points, whatever it was at half, and they lost at home. Sean, that's an epic choke job by the Denver Nuggets, correct?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And like this has been a bizarre series because we've seen both these teams blow each other out. And we've also seen like the narratives run wild on both sides of things. And we saw when Jokic was down 0-2 of we crowned this guy too early. Like, who is this dude? We put him in conversation, he didn't belong. Then all of a sudden it's a 3-2 comeback and it's Nikola Jokic is back to being the best thing ever. There's a lot of the Anthony Edwards getting quite the pass for last night, who overall did not play very well at all. I respect that he competed, he tried, but the dude shot. Let me get the numbers right here. 6 for 24 from the field is not great in an elimination game there. And a lot of that was a credit to Denver, the things that they were doing defensively. But yeah, the bottom line is that the Nuggets had this game by a stranglehold and were unable to get the job done. That Minnesota flipped the switch, brought their defense up in the second half, and that changed the entire game. So I can't believe it went down that way. This is a testament to Minnesota. I give that organization a ton of respect for just sticking with the identity they constructed with that Rudy Gobert trade, which looked like a mistake for so long. And Anthony Edwards and the rest of the team has found a way to make it work. So shout out to them. I was happy to see that collapse. And yeah, I'm very surprised to see it from Denver for sure.
Yeah, that was the game. Look, I did not really pay attention too much, I won't lie, in great detail to the Pacers and Knicks just because of the score. And I didn't think that the Knicks were going to come back. They were ugly. It was sluggish. Like second half tipped, and I'm like, now they're done. They're cooked. And the Pacers didn't get off the gas pedal. And oh, by the way, they were hitting everything. And then once Brunson went out, I'm like, all right, that's cool. So the fourth quarter kind of was like in the background. But I settled in, of course, a little bit later into the evening and was able to catch this game. And Timberwolves came out hot. They were rolling, definitely up for the fight in Denver. That place was absolutely electric. And then they go up by double digits, and everybody on the timeline is like, you fool, you thought Minnesota had an opportunity. Not me, just people speaking, throwing their opinions into the void. And then all of a sudden, something happened. And yep. I can't explain it. What the hell took place in that second half that it was such a lopsided defeat by the Minnesota Timberwolves over the Denver Nuggets? I still can't believe the way it played out last night.
Yeah, and defense is absolutely the story to me. I mean, we're talking about the Timberwolves held the Nuggets to 14 points in the third quarter and then 23 in the fourth quarter. That the entire second half, they scored 37 points. That does not happen to a Denver offense, which when it's humming, looks as unstoppable of just about any offense that I've ever seen, maybe outside of the Golden State Warriors during the prime Steph Curry years. That's really the only other conversation I think there is. But it is different because it's become like a process, a decision-making standpoint where Jokic is such the hub of that offense where everything flows through him, everything works, and it didn't last night. So I do think this is more about Minnesota being able to lock things down. Thought Rudy Gobert did a really nice job last night. He also hit one of the more insane shots I've ever seen on one of that fadeaway at the shot clock buzzer. And Anthony Edwards with a cool quote after the game too, where he was like, once I saw that shot go in, I was like, yeah, we probably got him. And that is how it felt at that point in time when so shout out to them for gutting it out. It was a mentally tough win. It was a defensive oriented win. And that Timberwolves team has grown on me quite a bit throughout these playoffs.
Yeah, it's been fun. I was shocked. I still can't believe that they were able to pull it out and go on the road and beat Denver 3 times in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
It's what was called upon, and they fulfilled it. And now they're in the Western Conference, and the T-Wolves have been one of these teams over the last few years, past couple decades, that it's like, they're fun to root for. They got some big time players. Hell, they were picking in the lottery, if not top 5 year after year after year after year. And it's one of those franchises that are like, all right, cool, go win it. Like, I'd like to see it. Give me some new blood, right? I got, honestly, like, even if the Celtics were able to win the finals, oh well. Tatum, it's his first one. I hate the Celtics. I hate Jason Tatum. I hate everything. I get it. But the basketball fan in me wants to see that dude get over the hump. Really does. I get it. They put together a hell of a team this year. But that's no fault of his own. I always laugh at the people who want to say Jason Tatum isn't a superstar. I always thought he was. I always thought he was a badass. He's just got to be a little bit more consistent. And here he is, get an opportunity to win his first championship. So any way you look at it, across the board, Pacers, Celtics, Nuggets, or Mavericks, or T-Wolves, somebody's getting their first ring. From like the big name players, coaches, organizations, first time in forever. When the hell was the last time Indiana won it? I couldn't even tell you. Minnesota, I don't think Minnesota's ever won it, right? Dallas won the year with Dirk over Miami. Boston ended up winning it with the big 3. But still, it's just a whole different conversation with the players that are there right here, right now. Anyway, staying with the West, DraftKings Sportsbook Game 1 coming up here on Wednesday, T-Wolves and the Mavs. It was unfortunate, Sean. I wanted to see OKC push it to 7. Getting 3 Game 7s would have been great. SGA with a terrible foul down the stretch. Final 2 seconds. I just, let them shoot it. Don't foul. I don't know. It's easy for me to say on the couch. Anyways, got to give credit. They hit the free throws, and now they roll on. But they're 4-point dogs in Game 1. How you seen that one play out?
Yeah, I flipped on this. I think I lean towards the Timberwolves being the team that takes a hold of the series at the start. There's always kind of this debate that people have of rest versus rust when you're waiting a little bit of time. We know that the Timberwolves will obviously be bouncing back from quite the high intensity game, so there is the potential for a letdown moment where they just don't have their best stuff from the start. But it's not like it's a massive advantage compared to the amount of time that Dallas is coming off. This Mavericks team is real deal good, and they're another team that has figured out how to play within themselves, that everyone flows together in a way that is necessary for full team success. And that obviously starts with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. But I think the story of the Mavericks in these playoffs has been much more about the Dan Gaffords of the world, the PJ Washingtons of the world, these guys that are stepping up. And it's interesting, like, we hold these superstars to the fire so strongly that there's always like it sticks to their legacy more so than really any other sport, I would say, when we're talking about the NBA. But a lot of times the difference is it's the Nas Reeds of the world. It's the PJ Washingtons of the world. It's these guys that are stepping up and making plays, the role players playing big at the big moments, which you need to happen. So it is interesting to kind of look at. I believe in Minnesota's just full core a little bit more than Dallas. Like, I think as much as Dallas killed it at the deadline this year by bringing in the Gaffords and PJ Washington, there does feel to be this cohesiveness with Minnesota that I don't fully feel about Dallas. So I do side towards them, and I think it starts with Game 1 where they take control of this series.
4 games played this year. First one was back in the second week of December. Minnesota 119-101 game in Dallas. Game 2 was December the 28th in Minnesota. Minnesota 118-110. Game 3, January 7th in Dallas. Mavericks finally got them 115-108. Dallas was a 2-point favorite in that one. In the final game, January 31st, Minnesota was a 13-point favorite, and they covered it in a big, big way, 121-87. Of course, we're looking at 2 different teams from those times, much different, especially from the Dallas Mavericks perspective. But a little back and forth there. Total consistently, I would say 228, 229-ish, somewhere around there. Game 1, once again, wow. 206.5 is your total coming in for game one. And then 4-point spread. Once again, T-Wolves there. Yeah, you'd like to believe some defense will be played here. It is the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. Maybe in game one, I could see it. 206.5. Way too low for me to sit here and say take the under. Where do you stand on that one? What type of numbers are we looking at as far as offensive output is concerned? Where are you at in that for this series?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a nice contrast of styles, as was the case like yesterday was a perfect example of that with this Pacers and Knicks team, which each put up, I think it was 130 to 109 or something like that was the final score there. Then they don't even crack 100 either team in that late game. That the final score for that one coming in at 98 to 90. So I do lean towards the under in the Dallas and Minnesota. That I think that is going to be the more defensive minded series, and even a team like Dallas, while they're not known to be lockdown defenders, which they're better than the perception of them is for sure. They play at such like a slow pace, a style where Luka Doncic is taking the ball up the floor slow, dribbling out the shot clock to an extent. So I don't expect there to be a ton of scoring in that series. I do like the over in the Pacers and Celtics at over 222 there. The Pacers, we know the way they like to run and gun, and the Celtics have had the best statistical offense all year. So I think that's going to be a game where both these teams put up some pretty high numbers. So I do like the over in Pacers Celtics and lean towards the under in Mavericks Timberwolves.
All right. Well, hey, look, we got some two good series going off. Like I said, with the 4 teams left, could be worse. It could be the Miami Heat, could be the Knicks, could be the Nuggets, could be teams that we are kind of bored of, right? But this is new. This is fresh. Dallas is playing some great basketball. Tim Legler has them beating the Timberwolves. I don't know. I can't give you a pick right now in that series. That is just a tough series.
Yeah.
I do lean towards Dallas. I do. I lean towards Dallas, but I'm not ready to lock that in just yet. And I'm going Pacers just from the standpoint of the money behind it. Celtics have been a juggernaut. Porzingis not being able to go 1 and 2. What does that mean to you?
I don't think it's going to matter a ton in this series. They need him back for the finals for sure, either this Dallas or the Minnesota team. Like the way, just from a matchup basis, Porzingis is so essential to the way the Celtics want to run their team. We're seeing a lot more Al Horford go back to being that floor spacer, the guy jacking up a ton of threes, which it's a credit to Horford that he's changed his game to adapt to that. But he's just not Kristaps Porzingis, and we know that. So I do think they need him back. I think for the Pacers, the side of things, like it doesn't make a ton of difference from a matchup standpoint in this series, that the Pacers are going to find their stride when they're getting out in transition, when they're pushing the pace. That's not something that Porzingis excels in. So maybe, I'm not going to say it helps him to an extent, but from a matchup standpoint, I don't think it hurts that he's not there for this series, but definitely for Boston to be at their best, that involves Porzingis being on the floor and playing at a high level. So hopefully that happens by the time the finals roll around.
Yeah. All right. Just to let everybody know, too, as far as series is concerned, the series, the T-Wolves are minus 170, Mavericks are plus 145, as my phone thought I said the other S word. Plus 145 for Dallas Mavericks, T-Wolves minus 170. Again, Celtics minus 900, Pacers 6-1. So money came in a little bit on the Pacers. I took the Pacers, I already got them at 7-1. Why not? Series spread, excuse me, for the total games. T-Wolves 5.5 at minus 160. As Sean pointed out, 5.5 for the Celtics and Pacers. Exact outcome. Let's go to that. Dallas to win the series in a sweep plus 1,400. 4-1 Dallas plus 1,000. 4-2 Dallas plus 475. 4-3 Dallas 7-game series. I could see this going 7-1 plus 700 there. Minnesota, you like them to win it? Sweep plus 750. Plus 425 to win in 5. Plus 500 to win in 6. Minnesota in 7 plus 380. I can get down with Dallas Mavericks in 7, Sean Barnard.
Yeah, I do think that that's going to be a deep series, that the Western Conference is going to be the entertaining matchup out of this. I've also been looking at some of these series player props. The points leader in Celtics Pacers, Jason Tatum's all the way at minus 500. That feels a little crazy to me, that I feel like that there's enough well-rounded of attack. Like Jaylen Brown at plus 500, I don't think it's an awful look. Halliburton at plus 3,500. That feels like that there's at least a chance that that happens. We're just talking about the most points. Tatum has not been the most consistent in these playoffs, and even the games where I think he's been effective, it's been a lot of well-rounded basketball that he is rebounding, he's playmaking, he's doing these things. He hasn't lit it up from a scoring standpoint, so I'm kind of surprised how significant the number is there.
Okay. And Halliburton, you think will be the leading scorer for the Pacers?
Yeah, yes, I think so. Siakam's got a lower number. He's at plus 2,000. He finished incredibly strong in that Knicks series. He looked very, very good down the stretch there. So I get that.
Jumpers. He was
Yeah.
pulling up from all over.
Yeah, he looked really good. I think I still lean towards Halliburton. I think a Halliburton at plus 3,500 is worth a little bit of a flyer there. That he's going to be very active in their number. Well, yeah, we're talking about like 10 to win 360 here. That at least has a chance in my mind. That's worth taking a little bit of a dart on.
On Halliburton to lead the series in scoring.
Yes.
Okay. Over to the Western Conference side. What are we looking at over there from Dallas? Is it Luka above all?
Luka's minus 140, which I like. If you were to make me predict this, I would think Luka was the guy with the massive favorite, not Tatum. And I get obviously the series has an impact, and Anthony Edwards looking over his shoulder has an impact. Edwards is plus 130. Kyrie is plus 1,500. Definitely would stay away from that one. He has not been in as much of attack mode as I think he frankly needs to be. Karl Anthony Towns at plus 2,000 is a little bit interesting to me as well. He's been I give Cat a ton of credit for the way that he has adjusted and found a way. And while you can critique, like obviously he isn't, you could argue he's probably the third or fourth most important player on that team, which is a bit of like not what you expected from Karl Anthony Towns when you first got him. I still give him a ton of credit for finding a way to make it work. And I do think that he does bring value from the scoring standpoint. So that could be an interesting flyer there. I think Luka probably gets the job done with the minus 140 here.
Yeah, Karl Anthony Towns, 23. One thing we know about Karl Anthony Towns, is that he loves the limelight. He loves the spotlight. So, it's going to be shining bright with the Western Conference Finals. So he's the type of guy that could probably decide to put it on his back and say, I'm going to get my shots up and be a little selfish at times. We'll see, though. We'll see. 23 from last night. Interesting number there. But to lead the series in scoring, I do like the idea of Tyrese Halliburton, especially if they're going to win. He needs to be that guy. He's got to be the catalyst. He has to be the guy that's pushing it, that takes the selfish. You got to be selfish. Somebody said it. They were calling the games. It might have been Reggie. It was somebody that could speak on it. Somebody with a little cachet. And they said, dude, when it comes to playoff time, like, you have to be selfish. If you don't have that in you, good luck. Now you got to be selfish. You got to hit those shots too at the same time. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
There was a cool story I heard from Eric Spoelstra down in Miami with Duncan Robinson. When Duncan Robinson first kind of came to the scene, like obviously why he was on the floor was to shoot 3-pointers. And there was a play where Duncan Robinson came off a screen, had like an okay look at a three, and ultimately decided not to shoot it, passed it out. Spoelstra immediately rips him out of the game and calls him out for being selfish. He says, you are selfish for not shooting that shot. That shot right there was the best shot for our offense that we generated, and you did not take it, and essentially pulled him do that. And that did kind of change my outlook on things a little bit of like, that's an interesting perspective that like the unselfish thing to do is sometimes to shoot. And I do think Tyrese Halliburton at times compromises his outlook by trying to get everyone involved when the best route for this Pacers team is for you to be that dude, be the dude leading the charge, doing all these things. And they're at their best when he plays aggressive. They need that from start to finish in the series.
All right. Exciting stuff. Here we go. Eastern and Western Conference Finals. Once again, doesn't feature the 76ers. Oh, Sean Barnard. Is there anything? Let's squeeze in a minute on the Sixers. Is there anything from the final four teams left? Is there anything from the teams that were just eliminated that we could take? Like, as you're watching these games play out last night, we got these series ready to go, is there anything that makes you think about the Sixers? Is there anything that pushes you to say, you know what, if the Sixers could only do that? Like, for example, when things are going well for the Nuggets, I said, well, shoot, man, Murray did his best last night in the first half specifically. And, that two-man game is just untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I want. I want Maxey and Embiid to be the two-man game next year. Let's go. Is there anything that stood out to you? I'm saying that kind of tongue-in-cheek at the same time. But you understand what I'm saying. As we're watching these teams be successful, anything that made you think about the Sixers?
I mean, I always feel like I end up sounding like a Joel Embiid defender when
You
saying these
are.
types of things. Yeah,
You
to an
are.
extent. But like there's never been a Joel Embiid team to have a Nas Reed or or have a guy that, pops out of nowhere who gives you like an impact off the bench. Like I still looking at like the top to bottom of these rosters, the Sixers are right up there with the top end talent when you have Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. But the rest of the guys just have to be better. The Sixers have to wait to round out like a complete roster in a way that they have failed to do year after year. So you got to fill up a complete team. You got to find other guys to produce. Just being so heavily reliant on the superstars is kind of where my mind. And I think like Anthony Edwards shooting 6 of 24 and the Timberwolves still having a crazy comeback win is a huge indicator of that. Like if Joel Embiid does not play like the MVP version of himself every single night, the Sixers just don't win. So find more ways to win. Find guys that can help carry the load a little bit is kind of where my mind went.
Yeah, that's where Nick Nurse's mind should be at as well. Speaking of Nick Nurse, are the Sixers drafting Zach Edey?
I don't know. I would be surprised if they did, but there is the connection there that Nick Nurse did coach him for Team Canada, spoke really highly of him. I think Edey's probably the most fascinating, just like where he's going to fall in this draft. I've seen like everywhere from like the potential 10th pick to potential second round and anything in between. I'm sure every team has a very different perception of him. If you go around the league, he's one of the more, I guess, divisive players that we've seen when trying to project what he will look like. But Nick Nurse does seem to like him, and I do think that I tweeted out the video of him speaking about Edey, and it was kind of cool to see like the genuine respect and admiration that he has for him as a player. So wouldn't fully take it off the table. Wouldn't be in favor of it either.
No, yeah, our conversation is we have a bet on the cut app. Will he be a first round selection? And that's as far as I wanted to go. And I'm making the case because how many players have we seen drafted 20? It's tough when Maxey was 21st, but you understand what I'm saying. They're not a wasteland, but to pick a player 25, 26, 27, 28 and have that player mean something, it doesn't really happen all that fast. I think a lot of those players will end up in new situations, new teams, and then they find their feel, and that's understood. But a guy like Zach Edey, somebody is going to take him.
Oh yeah.
Somebody's going to take him sooner than they should. And I don't know why. Like, what would be the strength other than the size? Is that it? Is that like, look, he could pull down a board. He's pretty good at that. He's got really big size, wingspan, all that, can shoot the free throw. Okay. Like, is that what, is enticing general managers more than anything when we talk about Zach Edey here?
I mean, the resume, like he probably has the most impressive resume of any player in this entire draft. Like we're talking about a dude that like in his 4 years of college was a 2-time AP player of the year, 2-time Wooden Award winner. That just last season he averaged 25.2 points, 12.2 rebounds, and 2.2 blocks per game. Like that's pretty nutty stuff there. And like stylistically, there's gonna have to be a lot of changes. But I will say personally, he did change my mind a little bit with like improving slightly in his lateral movement. Like I don't think he's gonna be vulnerable, and he's just like I think he's probably too big to fail. Like I think he's probably the extent of size at which somebody's always going to give him a chance. And there are decent indicators on the jump shot too. He didn't do a ton of it at Purdue, but like from free throws, shot 11.2 free throws per game and shot 71.1% this season, shot 73.4% from the line the year before. That is generally a pretty good indicator of a guy who's at least capable of being a shooter. I get like it's just the combine. There's no defense, no game intensity, any of these things. But Edey looked pretty smooth going through the shooting workouts, hitting a couple threes in a row. So I think a team is going to talk themselves into giving him a chance. And who knows how it ultimately ends up. I've talked myself into taking the belief that this guy is going to have like a legitimate long-term NBA career, which I was very skeptical of for a long time.
All right. Yeah, 70% from the free throw line. So you want to hack Edey? You want to play that game? He'll knock him down.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. A little ways away. When is the draft?
June 24th, I believe.
Okay.
Right around then.
Yeah. A little over a month away. June 27th on a Thursday.
27th. Mm-hmm.
We used to get up for the draft. We used to get up for the lottery, and then I didn't even watch the lottery. I didn't even know it was happening when it did. So
yeah, they snuck it in here this year, which I didn't really.
It was on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
It's like, come on,
Crazy.
dude, don't do that. Yeah, exactly. All right, Sean, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll get everybody ready to go for game one with some props and plays and all that and more. Once again, be sure to follow Sean at Sean_Barnard1. That's Barnard with the number 1. I am Sean Brace. Before we get out of here, though, I do want to pump up something. No, Sean Barnard, you got to love Rita's, right? You love Rita's, especially with summertime.
Have to.
They're celebrating their 40th birthday. 40th
Wow.
birthday at Rita's. I went yesterday, went with my daughter, and she got the Italian ice cotton candy. Oh, so good. She loved it. Mouth was all blue, nothing better. And then I got the birthday cake Crete. The birthday cake concrete. It's like a milkshake. So good. I'll tell you what, there's nothing better than Rita's. You're in, you're out. You can get your milkshakes, you can get your ice cream, or you can keep it simple with an Italian ice or the gelati. Anyways, get on over to Rita's. They got some really cool things going on. They're giving away a trip right now. Just check out their website. I tweeted out at FoxPHL Gambler, where you get your choice of a trip. You could sign up for sweepstakes. 40th celebration going down for Rita's. Shout out. Good stuff, Sean. We'll be talking about Rita's all summer long, my friend. Warm weather is here. Memorial Day weekend this weekend. All right, that will do it for us here on Picks and Roll. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. No NBA, so good luck on breaking down those plays for tomorrow. We'll talk to you.